All right, personal privilege, Representative Plessis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members. Chairman Stefanski. I have with me some documents in my hand. These are not notes. This is a 152-page order from a federal court. This is a 34-page ruling from a federal appellate court. The speaker mentioned that we were asked to come in here and redo a map that he believes is legal. Well, I don't think we were asked. We were ordered by a federal district court and by 3 federal appellate judges, 4 judges. We're either going to respect the law or we're not going to respect the law. We've said time after time after time that the maps being proposed did not pass muster under the Voting Rights Act. It feels like Groundhog Day because I've come to this well so many times and repeated myself, and we've made the same argument so many times. The question is, are we going to respect the law or are we not going to respect the law? The issue of time has been raised. We know, because it's all in the record, that this body has more than enough of ability to get through these maps in the 6 days in which we've been given, starting today. We know we have enough time to get through the maps because the maps that have been filed by myself, Senator Fields on the Senate side, they've been in the record for a very long time now. And we were sent here with a very clear mandate from the court to come back with a map that had 2 African-American congressional districts. This is not complicated. This is not hard. It might be hard for some of us, but we know what we're here to do. The fact of the matter is this. The current maps that we are under, the current maps that, yes, 2/3 voted to override the governor on. The fact is that that map is on the wrong side of the law, and it's on the wrong side of history. So my challenge to this body is, let's get on the right side of the law and get on the right side of history and adopt a map that complies with the federal order. When I was young and I didn't listen to what my mom had to say, she had a very specific thing that she would say to me. She said, "Son, you have deliberately disobeyed me. You deliberately disobeyed me." We have been told what to do. So this is not a choice that we have. We're either going to deliberately disobey the courts or we're going to do the right thing.
Representative Phelps. Representative Carter, why do you rise?
For those of us who aren't on House and governmental affairs, what do Thursday and Friday look like as far as when we may be down here?
Let's get there first and then we'll fill you in. How about that?
Just trying to get my schedule together.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I first come here just with the responsibility of the people who sent me here to represent not just my district, but for the entire state of Louisiana. As the speaker mentioned, we did have, our committee did a great job in doing the work with us and for us. We did have several state meetings, and when it was in my area, and as I was told as across the state, it was deliberately and very clearly stated and asked for another congressional district so that we would have additional representation in Congress. I've heard the words fair, that the previous maps were constitutional, It could be a controversial issue that we still have to address. And I heard the word premature with us being here today. I think it's very premature when the speaker, the president, hired lawyers at the sums of $60,000 a month as a defense lawyers for where we stand today. When Representative Stefanski brought the map, I did ask him, some of you remember, we read it in the paper, or I read it in the paper first, and I asked the question, was that, how was that addressed since it did not come before the body? And of course, he could not answer for the speaker. So that is something that has been concerning, and I see everybody, not really listening, but again, I'm here on behalf of the constituents across the state of Louisiana, wondering, are we paying $60,000 a month to discriminate against minority people? That's another question today. Louisiana is more than just the rich, the wealthy, the white. There are black people. There are other minorities in this state. Not so rich, not so wealthy, maybe the haves and the have-nots. I felt judged at times since I've been here by the people that I am here representing. And those of whom I've had conversations with, I've said, but I'm here to represent. We shouldn't be looked at how many SNAP recipients we have in our districts and how many receiving benefits and make a determination of what's good and bad and ignore those people that pay taxes and try to live in our great state as well. So I would like to go back and tell them, and I hope they will see at the end of this week, that no, our speaker, our legislature, our president did not prematurely hire defense lawyers to discriminate against African Americans and minorities in this state, because I know we will do the right thing and have fair representation for Louisiana. Thank you.
Representative Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the book of Joshua commands us to be strong and courageous. Today in this session, is simply about doing the right thing. And members, from my perspective, it does not take courage to simply do what is right. Mr. Speaker, members, as I stand here, I can't help but reminisce and reflect upon a great man who had such a profound impact on my life. My grandfather, the late, great Reverend Lieutenant Colonel James Lawrence Wynn, Jr., who was born November 2nd, 1929. When he graduated from McDonough 35 Senior High School in 1946, he enrolled in law school for a year, but then answered a calling to serve his country. And so, after being commissioned as a second lieutenant through Southern's ROTC program, he enrolled in the military full-time. Despite so many racial challenges during that time, he was able to go from a second lieutenant to lieutenant colonel. But during that time, I can't help but reflect on the stories that he shared with me. How as he was fighting for this country and defending the flag, when my grandmother was pregnant, he could not stop at certain hospitals because of his race. How as he was fighting for this country and defending the flag, simply to have that sacred, honored, fundamental right to vote, he, my grandmother, and so many other people in my family that simply looked like him was slapped with literacy tests and poll tests. As my grandfather defended this country and defended this nation, he not only had to fight to keep our citizens safe, but he had to fight for rights that should have been afforded to him as a citizen, but he did not have because of the color of his skin. And here today, members, unfortunately, people that look like me find ourselves fighting yet again, simply for the fundamental right to vote. There's a reason that the John Lewis Voting Rights Act right now is in Congress, because we see so many people that look like me, unfortunately, that continue to this day to be disenfranchised. Members, at the end of the day, this session is about ensuring that black people have a fair chance at representation. They make up 1/3 of this state's population. Members, I don't think that's too much to ask. Now, members, we see House Bill 1 has been filed and Senate Bill 1 has been filed, and we'll hear things like, oh, 6 days is not enough time for the public to weigh in. Well, members, those bills were filed in previous sessions. They have been vetted, they have been reviewed. The public has had time to weigh in on those bills, and what those bills both do is create a second black congressional district. I often talk about literacy, members, but I was also very good at math and fractions. And one thing I learned in elementary school, 1/3 of 6 is 2. Members, what we are seeing at this moment, unfortunately, are the lingering effects of slavery and Jim Crow. But today, at this moment in time, we have an opportunity. We have a mandate to simply do the right thing. Members, we did not get it right last session. We didn't get it right in February, because if we did, we would not be back here. And so, members, at this consequential moment, it is our obligation to uphold our constitutional responsibility and do the right thing, to ensure people that look like me have a fair shot at representation, and to ensure that I don't have to go back home and answer the question that I had to answer last night from my 13-year-old niece that said, Uncle Mo, why do we have to fight so hard? I was speechless. But I hope we can make her proud, and children that look like her, and citizens that look like me, and simply do the right thing and honor the mandate of the court and the mandate of black residents by adding a second congressional black district. It's never too late to do the right thing. The time has come. The hour is now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Newell.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and members. This is the third legislative session where we have had the chance to do what is fair, what is right, and what is legal by enacting legally compliant maps. The third session. So I don't know why this session should come as a surprise to anyone. I actually thought it would have been called a little bit earlier, because not one map that was passed out of this body met the requirements of the Voting Rights Act. Some of our leaders in the legislature have said that throughout this process, we'll just let the courts work it out. Well, it has been worked out by the courts. And the courts have ruled that the legislature must pass a map that has 2 minority-majority congressional districts. And that we have failed to meet that burden. We failed to meet that burden, and we failed to meet the burden in proving why we don't have the time to pass one. Several of my colleagues have come up and given examples as to the fact that we do have time to pass this map, and have told how we've passed legislation in this body in less time than what we have now. This is just another opportunity that the courts are giving us to do what is right. We can either pass a fair map now, or we can prove to our citizens, the people that elected us to come here, we can prove to them and we can prove to the courts why we, as a legislative body, have absolutely no business operating and voting without the supervision of the Department of Justice pre-clearance. We are here to do one thing in these next 5 days, and that is to pass one map which creates a second minority-majority congressional district. We have heard from the citizens. We've given them ample time. We have heard everything we need to hear from the citizens all across this state. We have gone to the different regions. We've been in their backyards to listen to what they've had, and we gave them the opportunity to come to this building to tell us what it is that they want. And the overwhelming thing that was said, they need a second minority-majority district. If we start our work tomorrow morning, we will have more than enough time to do what we should have done in February. Waiting, that will push us out of the time delay, and that will cause confusions. But if we start tomorrow, we will have more than enough time to get this one map out, the one map that the court has directed us to do. It is not too late to do what the courts have directed us to do, and it is not too late to do what is right by the citizens of this great state of Louisiana.
Representative Marcel.
Mr. Speaker and members of the House of Representatives, I find myself standing here once again to talk about us doing what's right. I sat and I listened as our speaker came and as Representative Stefanski came to this well and said that they thought that they had a fair map. They talked about the 2/3 of this House voting overwhelmingly for their map. But I want you to look at the makeup of this House. The reason it was overwhelmingly voted for, one, is because none of the other maps got out of committee. I didn't hear anybody come up here and talk about that. We presented map after map after map, all of which would have given us, either one of them would have given us 2 minority congressional districts. But none of those maps made it out of committee. So you definitely would not have had an opportunity to vote on those maps because they were withheld in the committee. We did go all over this state, road shows. And as you have heard, people all over this state know that from 6, a third of 6 is 2. You do the math. It's 6 congressional seats. Now, this is not based upon something that Denise Marcel said. You know, we have something called the census. And in the census, it said that we had enough black folk in this state to have 2 congressional districts. It is very simple to me. We get up here every day and we start off with Psalms and we start off with scriptures and we start off with prayer and we talk about loving everybody. But when it's time to vote, we don't vote that way. We don't vote like we love blacks in this state. We vote along racial lines. We vote along party lines. We do not vote like we love everybody in this state. Now, we can go across the street and have a great barbecue, and some of y'all drink a few beers, although I don't drink. But at the end of the day, you do not want us to have fair representation in Louisiana. And something is really wrong with that. Something is really, really wrong with that. Because when I love somebody, I want them to have the same equal treatment that I have, access to the same things that I have. We may agree to disagree, and we may be on both sides, but we can't keep allowing the scales to be way up here on one side and way down here on the other side, and not allowing these people to ever rise up. And when we rise up, and when we get a second congressional seat, that means that we will have our voices heard in Washington. That means that we will have people fighting for the George Floyd Act. That means that the gun rights that we believe are best, common sense laws, red flag laws, that we believe is best for the citizens not only of this state, but other states throughout the nation, that we believe is best in the best interest of our children and protecting our families, that we get to vote. But if you can hold us down here from ever getting there, then we never get to vote. It's very, very simple. I want to keep you with the one congressional district that you have, and you don't deserve another one. And that's why we had the pre-clearance for so long, because they knew you wouldn't be fair in Louisiana. This is no surprise to anyone. So stop getting up here feeding me something that's not true. Let's do what's right. Let's do what the judges told us to do. Oh, that's right. We only want to do what the judges tell us to do when it's in your benefit, to your benefit. You know how many judges told us to do the right thing? We wouldn't be here. We keep talking about why did the governor call us back here? He called us back here because the judge made a ruling, said go back. Since you didn't do what was right the first time, or the second time, or the third time, please don't waste the citizens of Louisiana's money by allowing us to come back here. I want to go on vacation with my grandkids. I don't know about y'all. But we could have done this. These maps are not new. We don't even have to recreate them. They've been sitting here all along with the second black majority seat, minority majority seat. It's already here. Why are we playing this game? It's not enough time. The maps we have are fine. They don't hold a muster to the courts. A very conservative court, I might add, ruled that it's more likely that the plaintiffs would win. So when are we going to start really caring about each other like we say we love one another? When are we going to do that? I suggest that we start today. Today is a good day to start, and not to introduce bills that does not create a second minority majority district. That's not what they told us to do. I hope that you all are not proposing to draft any such maps, because we're going around in the same circle. So let's stop going around in a circle as if we are in a circus, and let's do what's right by all of the people of Louisiana, by all of them. If you had the majority, then you would want your seat. We want our seat at the table. It's real simple. Give us an opportunity to elect another black seat so that we can fight for the issues that we believe our people want us to fight for. Thank you.
Representative Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I wasn't planning on speaking. I didn't realize there were going to be a lot of personal privileges, but I felt after listening to some of it that it was important for me to come up here. I appreciate the various perspectives that we have been presented, and I do not intend to offer any personal thoughts or criticisms with regard to what's been said, even though there are certain things that I personally have been offended by. What I would like to do is simply offer my own personal, non-political perspective on the matter at hand. We have a legislative duty. The law requires us to draw maps of congressional districts. That's our responsibility. The current legal status is that the lower court's ruling that we must draw a second black minority district is what is on the table today. We have no idea, even though we have an expectation that in early July that the courts may take up this matter, the case, to potentially make a ruling, at some point. We don't know when that is, and we don't know what the outcome will be. And so it would be a gamble for proponents of the current map to simply rely on the outcome in the judiciary. And so what we do have before us, in my opinion, is an obligation to at least try to adhere to the federal ruling that is before us. I recognize that the probability of failure is far greater than the probability of success. That said, I believe it is incumbent upon us to at least try. And I simply ask that we all support the necessary procedural motions that would allow us as a legislature the opportunity to attempt to comply with current federal law, regardless of how you may vote on the actual instrument, should they even leave a committee. I just ask that you please support the procedural motions that would allow us the opportunity to vet the instruments that have been filed and to make the necessary effort to attempt to adhere to the current court ruling. Thank you.
Representative LaFleur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Word of God declares in Matthew 25:40, "The king will reply, 'Truly I tell you, whatever you did for the least of those brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.' 1/3 of this state is black. 1/3 of 6 is 2. In every district, in every school, public or private, 1/3 of 6 is 2. You recognize that, I know you do. Yet you've chosen to recognize that 1/3 of 6 is 2. You can reverse the past by simply recognizing that 1/3 of 6 is 2. This is not about party. This is about right. It is about wrong. It is simple math. 1/3 of 6 is 2. Thank you.
Representative Lyons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, my first inclination was to ask you guys how you guys enjoyed your summer away, but we haven't been away that long. But the thing of the gist of it is, this past week, while you guys were contemplating not coming back, enjoying your summer, I was here in this town at a conference, And I was brought to that conference because at that conference, there was a gentleman from North Louisiana who stood up to make a report on Oscar James Dunn. And if you guys don't remember, we passed a bill here this past session to memorialize him as the first lieutenant governor elected black in Louisiana. But the gentleman's remarks were about a fight to allow that opportunity to happen. So there were some members who actually knew of the work that we've done, and he called upon me and said, Rep, you got to come and set this record straight, because there was a lot of work that you did with that. So me, as some of you may not know, I'm very humble. I don't jump out in front of a crowd just to get cheers. So I'm like, you know, there's an article written about it. You can read it. So nonetheless, I went. And I explained to those people, and this is a conference here. For you all who don't know, Oscar James Dunn was the third Grandmaster of the state of Louisiana for Prince Hall Masonry. So there's members in this body from all over the state. And I had to, you know, actually talk about how proud I am of this body. So I explained to them very eloquently that there was no fight. There was a presentation of the facts. And the members of this body made the right choice based upon the conscience of each member of this body as the process went. So there are some things that we fight about here, but that was clear based on the facts that that's how and how appropriate should have went. And I explained to them the process and what was involved in that. So after that moment was over, there were several members who said, hey, can I talk to you? Lyons, can I talk to you? So, well, yeah, let's talk. What do you want to talk about? I said, well, I appreciate the fact that you talked about how well your colleagues and everybody did on this particular issue here, but why do we have to have an opportunity for you to go back in session again and they couldn't do right with the congressional maps? I'm like, well, I can't really give you all of the answers here right now. And two of the gentlemen said, you know what, I saw you in Shreveport. The other guy said, yeah, and you were also down here in Baton Rouge. I said, yes, because I sit on the House and Governmental Committee, and that was our charge, to go about the state and listen to the individual people, the community, on the road show to find out what was your thoughts and ideas about redistricting. You say, well, you were there. Did you hear? Yes, I heard. Heard very loud and clearly. So why could that issue be not like the first issue? So, well, that's something to think about and ponder. So as I'm sitting there listening to some of the comments, expression that was made, one of the things that was said was that as a majority here, we voted 2/3 of the body to put maps out there that were fair and equitable maps. And I thought about that process and I said, well, maybe we didn't. And the reason I say that is because, like my colleagues who sit on House and Governmental and Senate Governmental, you all weren't privy of the ride that we went through about this beautiful state, to all the different places and hear all the different testimony and comments that were made. But I did. I kept notes, I kept the files, and I kept the records. And overwhelmingly, at every one of those stops, the large amount of comments were about, you have to create a second minority district. People came in on buses, they came in on cars, they stood before us and waited hours and hours to speak, to give their testimony, saying that we as a body have to do what's right. Everywhere we stopped, everywhere we went. And I did not miss one meeting. Drove this state. Probably, I enjoyed it. So I say that to say to you all is that there were several attempts, many attempts, to put forward maps that met the Jingles principles about the Voting Rights Act. And I don't think any of you guys voted on all of those maps. They never made it here. The only map that ever made close to that opportunity to get here was the one that you, Representative Ivey, attempted to bring here to this body that ended up over there on the table. Because there was a vote by this body made to table that bill and not let it be heard. The rest of the bills, Representative Glover brought 2 bills in H&G. They both died. Representative Duplessis brought a bill that died. And those maps, like every map that came before us, the question was asked from members of the committee and the chair. Do you think that map is fair and equitable? Did that map sustain the Voting Rights Act? And the conversation was always yes, yes, yes. But all those maps didn't come here. They didn't come before this body. They didn't make it here. So every opportunity that we had for all those cities, for all those individuals who came about to give their testimony about what they thought, in my estimation, we kind of ignored that because it never happened. It never happened. So I want to be proud. I want to be as proud as I was Saturday night talking about this body doing what's right when I gave them the facts of what an individual did, not only for blacks in Louisiana, but for state Louisiana. I want to feel good and be proud that we're going to do what's right now, because guess what? The federal judge said what you brought us did not meet the principles of jingles. It was basically in violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. You did not create that. So we've been ordered to do that now. So had we done that according to the facts the first time, we may not be in this position we are in now. And everyone's subject to their opinions. I have mine, you have yours, but we have the law. The rule of law, we have a constitution. And that tells us that the judge, at whatever level they are, has jurisdiction over decisions that we make when the oversight is there. And that's what it is. It's based on fact. So for all you members who I didn't see on the road show, I didn't see while we did the heavy lifting in committee, well, you have opportunity now. Now you get an opportunity, you should get an opportunity to look at a fair map that meets the jingles principles, that meets the proper procedures of all the Voting Rights Act, and vote on it to send it out to the people as it should be according to what's there. And one very important question I'm going to leave you with is what I asked on committee one day. After I sat there and I watched bill after bill, map after map get voted down, I asked a question to an individual at the table. I said, in the rule of law, as it pertains to voting rights, does anything in there question intent? What is your intent? So when I look at your intent, when you vote down every map that makes sense, according to what this federal judge that says, the intent was obvious. The intent was never to pass one. The intent was never to give this body an opportunity as individual bodies to represent this state to vote on something that was fair and equitable. It had to be what the intent was. So as I look at you right now, examine your hearts, something I always call a checkup from the neck up. Give yourself a checkup from the neck up that does not include an R or a D. It includes faces of all you guys who represent your districts. And let's do what's right for the people of Louisiana according to what is fair and equitable. Let's do what's right. Show what our intent is. Because believe me, right now, everything that you do, show us your intent. Show us my intent. Let's do what's right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
House bill by Speaker Scheck-Snyder to amend Title 18, provide relative to congressional districts, provide for redistricting of Louisiana's congressional districts, provides with respect to positions and offices. Bill becomes House Bill 2, and Representative Stefanski moves to suspend the rules for the purpose of referring this bill to House and Governmental Affairs at this time.
Representative Plessis, why do you rise?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
I have a question. We are moving to suspend the rules to move the 4 bills that have been introduced on the House side.
Yes, sir.
House Bill 2, which you have authored, as I understand it, well, maybe I don't understand it. My question is rather, is it your belief that this bill is in compliance with the order that we got from federal court?
I do, in the fact that it complies with redistricting.
Okay, my understanding of the order, and I have it printed right here, it says that it said very clearly that we are ordered to move a bill that had 2 black congressional districts. Does this bill have 2 black congressional districts?
It complies with redistricting, and as you know, any bill that we file, once it moves through the process, it can change to anything.
My only question, based on the order from the judge, respectfully, Mr. Speaker, is does the bill, House Bill 2, have 2 black congressional districts?
As I've said before, my reading of it says that it complies with redistricting. and that's why we're referring the bill to committee.
I'm not sure what you mean when you say it complies with redistricting, but I think we were sent here to comply with the judge's order. That's why we're here. So we're being asked to suspend the rules on a bill that my read of it does not comply with redistricting, and my read of it does not comply with the judge's order.
Okay.
Therefore, I object.
All right. Representative Carter, why do you rise?
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the clerk a question. Madam Clerk, does this bill comply with the call of the special session? That is, as I understand it, the governor's call says that it is to comply not only with the judge's order, but it has to create a second majority black district. And I think that's what the call was. So does this bill comply with the call? Is it germane to the call?
All right, Representative Bryant.
Mr. Speaker, what is the racial makeup of your map? Your bill, what is the amount of?
Representative Ivey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I was on point of order because we shouldn't be debating the bill. Second is this a debatable motion or the objection?
The motion to refer is a very small debate, but on the bill it is not.
Okay, so
not on the merits of the bill.
Okay, and so, Mr. Speaker, I would like to request that my colleague can reconsider the motion and withdraw it. Every bill we bring is an instrument. Every bill we bring is a work in progress from the beginning. And I would like to maintain the respect for that process and ask my colleague to reconsider. Thank you.
To make that motion, Representative Ivey, you'd have to come to the floor. Representative Bryant, you want to come to the floor?
I don't have to. Why am I coming to the floor?
Because your button's pressed to come to the floor.
To ask a question about your bill?
That we can ask questions about the merits of the bill.
So the question
the motion was to object to sending the bill to committee. That's where we are. All right. Representative Plessis, point of order.
Just a question, point of order. It was stated at the outset that committee would meet on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there a reason why it would meet on Friday as opposed to tomorrow? And if this were not going to Representative Thomas's question, if the rules are not suspended for it to be read in tomorrow, it's still going to proceed to committee, will it not? It just has to lie over.
If we come in tomorrow, yes.
If?
Mm-hmm.
Why would, I mean, why?
If we have no other bills on the floor that would be referred in, we wouldn't have to come in tomorrow.
You mean in committee?
You would have committee only.
Right, so we would have committee tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
No, you'd have committee Friday.
Okay, I guess my question is, why would we not have committee tomorrow? Since we're already on the short time schedule.
We had said that already with the transparency of being able to have the public here and being able to give notice of the committee, the chairman referred to wanting to have that committee hearing on Friday.
Okay, the Senate Governmental Affairs Committee is meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, this is the House.
I understand. I do appreciate that, but
Thank
it's also my understanding, is it not, that we have already said we don't have time, so I'm just wondering why we would wait till Friday when we would waste an entire day.
Because the chairman asked that we give time for public and transparency on the bill. That's why we're doing it.
Thank you.
All right. The motion is we have a bill that suspend the rules to send to committee. Representative Dustin Miller. Well, let me get to that part. All right. We had a motion to suspend the rules to allow the bill to go to committee. We had an objection by Representative Plessis. All those in favor would vote yay to send it, and all those opposed would vote no. Representative Miller asks us for a lockout, with 20 members join him in a lockout. Lockout is obvious. All right, members, quorum call. Quorum call, members. Landry, yes. Do voting? All right, close them up. 95 members in the quorum. All right? All right. There was a motion made to send HB2 to committee. Representative Plessis objected. All those in favor vote yes. Representative Willard.
For this vote to pass, it would require 2/3 of those present and voting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Can I get a numerical count on what that vote total would be based off of the last quorum vote?
Yeah, we don't know how many were there. Just go with 10.
$63. I didn't know how many people voted.
She's good at math. And she has a
63.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right. All right. We have a motion to suspend the rules and allow the bill to go to committee. All those in favor vote yay. Those opposed vote nay. The clerk will open machines. Members, vote your machines. Vote your machines, members. Landry, no. You through voting? Close them up. 65 yays, 30 nays, and the motion fails. It prevails. I'm sorry. Prevails. Refer to House and Governmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I move to discharge the Committee on House and Governmental Affairs for HB 1.
All right. Representative Seabaugh.
What would be the effect of discharging the committee?
The bill would come back to the floor and have to lie over.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Representative Plessis, why do you rise?
Would Chairman Stefanski please state on the record his reasons and rationale for moving to discharge HB 1?
On a motion, he doesn't have to explain it. All right? All right, members, the motion on Representative Plessis. You want the floor on the motion? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I was very much told just now by the speaker that this is the House, not the Senate. But what we just saw was a move to imitate the Senate by making a motion to reconsider HB 1 after a procedural vote. Okay? So we can play that side and we can play that game when it's convenient. Now, the chairman wouldn't give his reasons for his motion to reconsider, but we saw the same thing happen a few weeks ago at the end of session, despite the fact that HB 2 made it to committee. Now, we as a body are going to take another vote, because why? Because I didn't want to vote for a bill that did not comply with the judge's order? Why would I vote for a bill to go to committee to be heard when it clearly does not comply with the judge's order? This is ridiculous. Vote how you want to vote, because I know you're going to do that. But I stand on my vote, and I ask everyone that voted red just now that you stand on that vote, because that bill clearly does not comply with the judge's orders. All of this talk about, oh, well, we can amend the bill. This is the first step. This isn't just an instrument. It's just an instrument in the process. No, we don't have time for that. We have 6 days to get this right. And you file a bill that doesn't even come close to having 2 black districts. But you want me and my colleagues to move to suspend the rules to send that to committee. I'm not here to play those games. Just like y'all don't want to be here, I don't want to be here right now. But if we don't get this right, you know who's going to be here? Our children and our grandchildren having these same ridiculous debates because we don't like a vote that we just took, because this is the House, not the Senate.
Come to the floor and make your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill is a bill that has been in the system for quite some time, and it's not a new creature. It's a bill that creates 2 minority districts in Congress. And if you allow the bill to go to committee of the whole, this body itself would have an opportunity to have a hearing on this bill, and it can be as soon as this body wants it to be. And so I'm asking that the bill not be sit for another day, because we have a time period. I know there's efforts going. The judge will be hearing from lawyers tomorrow from the House and the Senate, but we need to let everybody know that we're moving this process along as fast as we can. We got 6 days. So if you vote to have it as a committee of the whole, you can have the committee of the whole tomorrow. We can sit as a committee of the whole tomorrow and hear this bill out and resolve it one way or the other. And I suggest that's what we do. Otherwise, we're just trying to only hear one bill that does not comply even with the call, and say, well, whatever the court does, I don't care. We rely upon the courts. There are 3 branches of government. The court is one branch. We the legislative branch. This is our responsibility. Let's not shrink from their responsibility because of politics. All right. Our responsibility is to try to comply with the call. The call is to write a bill that has 2 predominant black districts in the Congress. That's the call. And this bill is within that call. Is the chairman don't want to hear it in his committee, the whole committee should hear it. The House of Representatives should hear it. I ask you to vote in favor of having the House of whole.
Representative Carter, you want to take questions? Representative Hughes, why do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to get clarity. Initially, Chairman Stefanski made a motion, and I don't think we disposed of that motion, and now Representative Carter's making a motion. So is it a substitute motion, and what motion are we actually voting on?
It is a substitute motion.
Okay. Thank you for the clarity. That's all I need. Thank you.
All right, question, Representative Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Carter, was it your understanding before your amendment or second motion? I don't know where I am today. I'm trying to understand this. Before you came up, was it your understanding that the motion that was brought forth by Representative Stefanski was just to discharge it, hear it as a committee as a whole, or are you saying he was just discharging it for it to lay over, then go to committee?
I think he moved to discharge it.
And that
I
means it
think
would lie over.
the chairman moved to discharge it, which basically means that the motion would not be scheduled for a hearing in his committee, and that it can be read over, I guess, tomorrow, and you can try to sign another committee, or you can have it hear it as committee as a whole. The chairman is basically saying that he does want to hear the bill for whatever reason.
Right. We
Okay.
didn't know where we.
I don't know what the reasons is.
Okay. And if
Maybe
so,
because he don't think it's enough time. I don't know. Maybe he just don't support the bill, or maybe he just don't think he doesn't want to hear the bill. So we know that. So now I substitute motion that we have here that's committee as a whole, since the chairman has decided not to hear it.
thank you for that clarity, because I didn't know where the first one was going, where it would end up. Thank you.
All right, Representative Thomas for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like clarification. If this is recommitted to the committee of the whole, does the dean preside in the chair?
It has been tradition that the dean would preside in the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. All right, Representative Gadberry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A question. You and others have mentioned that this bill has been in the record for months. And you're talking about HB 1. Based on my analysis, the bill I think you're talking about, which was introduced back in maybe February or March, this one is a little different than that. So this one's only been on the record since it was introduced.
Right. The bill.
So it hadn't been on there in months.
Well, we all know about the numerous bills that were filed during the February reapportionment session. This is one of the bills that was filed, along with many others. Didn't get out of committee. It hadn't gotten a hearing.
Right.
But it was filed.
But it's a different bill. It's been tweaked.
Based
on my analysis, it's been tweaked from the original bill I think you're talking about.
Okay, so maybe it's been tweaked. I have
So,
no idea.
I haven't looked at it, and I'm sure other House members haven't looked at it. So that's my question.
But you didn't look at it when you allowed
Yeah, I
it to
looked
be-
at it.
You didn't look at it when you allowed it to go to the committee, and you were fine with it until the chairman said he wanted to discharge the committee. So all we're doing is you get a chance to look at that bill and read that bill. It's in the file already, but you get a chance during the debate of the committee of the whole to participate in what you think of that bill.
Okay, I'll look forward to that. Thank you.
Representative Boyd.
Representative Carter, I just want to be clear on I'm so confused here right now. So when the chairman went up to discharge his bill, it was simply because he was angry, I guess, with the fact that we took a vote on HB 2. I've heard one of the representatives in here say the judge can't order us to be here. It was the governor for us to be here. So I want to be clear that we are right now here debating and arguing and fighting on giving Louisiana citizens an opportunity to elect, just the opportunity to elect an African-American person. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's one of the reasons why the governor made the call. That's why he vetoed the bill, because you want to have that happen. I'm going to redraw my motion at this time.
I don't think that you should.
I'm going to redraw the motion at this time.
I don't think you should. I think you should leave your motion because you are absolutely correct in what you're saying.
I have my reason for doing so, Representative Boyd. Mr. Speaker, I withdraw my motion.
Thank you, Representative Carter. To the floor, Stefanski.
Members, when we try to act in good faith and we try to speed up this process and move things forward, it's not just always about one party. It takes this entire body. And I respect the vice chair's explanation on why he was doing what he was doing. but it highlights a point. We're either going to try to expedite this and we're going to try to comply, or we're not. And you can't have it both ways, okay? And so, yes, I do take offense when my speaker's bill is objected to, when we send one bill straight there without objection. I do, all right? And I think you have to remember, it's not just all about one party allowing the other to do something. It works both ways. And my motion was for that, was to highlight that point, that it takes both of us in order to be able to accomplish things in an expedited, collegial way. With that said, the purpose that we're here, and to show that we're gonna expedite this process, I'm gonna withdraw my motion and allow the bill the vote that was made and the rules to continue to be suspended, to send it to committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right.
House bill by Representative Ivy to amend Title 18 relative to congressional districts, provide for redistricting of Louisiana's congressional districts, positions, and offices. That bill becomes House Bill 3. And Representative Stefanski moves to suspend the rules to refer this bill to House and Governmental Affairs at this time.
Without objection. All right. On your objection?
Members, we've suspended the rules on two bills. We've sent them to committee. I think that's enough. And to let this one go through the regular course, so I do object.
Representative Ivy? Representative Ivy, you want to come speak on the objection?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, on this objection, it's always interesting when, you get to experience new things every day in the legislature, and it seems I get to experience more extraordinary events than maybe the average legislator here. On this objection, I spent a lot of time on the map. It's not easy to draw these maps. And again, I've already stated that I personally believe the probability of failure is much greater than the probability of success with regard to the current mandate by the federal court as it currently stands. I believe it is necessary for us to be able to, in the committee process, to discuss the instruments, the merits. The maps look very different. And so I actually am unable to support HB 1 and SB 1 because of the more significant disruption that it makes to multiple congressional districts. I try to take an approach that would create fewer ripple effects and maintain more resemblance of what the current districts are. And so I believe that there is significant, distinctly different approaches between HB 1, HB 3 and 4, which I've authored, and then of course HB 2, which in its current posture resembles the map already passed. And so members, I ask that you please oppose this objection.
Representative Ivey, you want to take questions? Representative Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Ivey, is this a bill you had drawn last session?
No.
'Cause I think it's not?
No.
Okay. But
I wasn't able to complete. It takes a lot of time. I focus on other maps. And again, I supported the map that we currently have. I supported the overturning of the veto. The reason why is I believe the map to be absent some option that I saw on, that would be on a bill that was filed that I could support. I felt that it was the, most best map I could support. And so in lieu of, showing up this special session with no option I felt in good conscience I could support, I decided to complete my efforts and bring the maps that I have.
And does your map have two districts drawn?
It does have what the federal court is required of us, two black majority minority districts.
Okay, and I thank you for that. That is one of the questions, and I think that goes back to why we're here. We do want to hear the maps that have taken into consideration of the two districts. Thank you so much.
All right, no more questions. All right, Representative Gadberry, you have a question?
My question is the same, I guess the same. I just want to clarify. This was not your map that you proposed back in March, correct?
Correct.
HB3.
There's been no map.
Does it meet all the criteria of redistricting?
I believe it does.
You believe it does?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right.
All right. We're on 8.
All right, there are no more questions.
Thank you.
All right, Representative Jenkins, why do you rise?
Point of order, just what are we voting on again now? A lot just passed. Is this on an objection or is this to pass the bill? On rule suspension, exactly where are we right now?
To suspend the rules to allow it to go to committee.
That's what we're voting on now.
That's what you're going to vote on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right. All right. There's a motion made to suspend the rules and allow the HB3 to go to committee. There was an objection by Representative Seabaugh. All those in favor of allowing it to go to committee vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. The clerk will open machines. Members, vote your machines. Vote your machines, members. Green, yes. Presley, yes. You through voting, members? All right. Close them up. 79 yeas, 16 nays, and the motion passes. Refer to House and Governmental.
House Bill by Representative Ivy to amend Title 18, provide relative to congressional districts, provide for redistricting of Louisiana's congressional districts, positions, and offices. And that bill becomes House Bill 4. And Representative Stefanski moves to suspend the rules for the purpose of referring this bill to House and Governmental Affairs at this time.
All right, without objection.